Hi, and welcome on News Now, Belmont Journal daily news show and community update. I'm your host, Frederic Rigolo. Today we have with us Franklin Tucker, editor of the BelmontOnion.com. Hi, Franklin, how are you?
Just fine, thank you very much.
So, first story today is a good news. Broadband is coming to Belmont?
Well, it might be coming to Belmont. It won't be coming soon to Belmont, but there's a lot of interest in it. At the light board meeting on Monday, Mr. Spinelli, who's the director of the light, who is the general manager of Belmont Light, said that broadband had been something that pre-COVID was being this idea of putting broadband connections to each and every household was something that was being kicked around. He says now, he would like to see some more work done on this. Now, if you look across the state, there are a lot of towns that are now moving in that direction. Cambridge is thinking about it seriously. The towns of Quincy and Weymouth, two bigger towns on the South Shore, they're already going forward with studies, preliminary studies to see how much it would cost and how much they could make on this. So it's not rocket science. It's something that more and more people are thinking about. Now, what that would do, of course, if you get broadband, it's something that is, 1,000 more. It's 1,000 times quicker in speed. You can get a lot more for it, and Belmont then would say could price it in such a way that it's lower than it exists right now, and it's not really building anything out. It's just basically using the Belmont Light who would be doing the broadband. It would be using its own light poles and cable connections. So they have a lot of stuff already ready to go. Now, Mr. Spinelli said that he would like to spend like $60,000 on a detailed to build out study. And he said that they've done some research among customers, and about 35% of Belmont Light customers said they'd be very interested in broadband, and also about 30% more said they'd be okay with it, basically based on cost. So that's something that interested the Light Board, which is of course the Select Board until until April when we have an independent board.
Yeah.
So
for them.
But I think there was a lot of people weren't. I think the Select Board or the Light Board were a little bit cautious. They said, what do we know about technology? Is there going to be new technology in the next year or so? And they also said, look, we have two big projects still to go that Belmont Light has to do, and one is the voltage, the voltage throughout town and getting rid of the substations. That's something that will be done that they're continuing to do right now, and they also want to do a big study and then also commit to battery storage. And I think a lot of that has to do, with
generator side. Yes,
exactly, and it's something that is the future. People want to have storage for electricity, and that's something that Belmont Light is thinking that's a great way of conserving energy, but also making some money maybe.
Yes, and the broadband will save some money for the users, so for the Belmont Light customer.
Well, that's what the $60,000 was going to figure out. It was going to say, okay, how much is it going to cost to buy out? How many years it will take to recoup their money? How much the initial costs would be? So it's something that is going to happen. I think what you heard from the Light Board is that it's not going to happen now. The study isn't going to happen now. It might be 12 months to 18 months, or maybe even 2 years from now when they finally get to it. But they do think it's a wise idea to see what's happening with this, especially since other communities are moving forward.
Yes, so the timeline is a long run. So the time, yes, if you are 2 years for the study, and
that's right.
Then,
for the study, just the study.
That have some downside, and especially for BMC or for the cable company that are.
That's right. Cable companies, of course, Verizon and Comcast could say, well, we're out of here. You're going to have to deal with it because they're not going to be making any money because the town would say, hey, we have this cheaper competitor. Let's do it that way. I think that, you do see that there are downsides. I mean, there's communities that have failed miserably with their own broadband. Burlington, Vermont was one of them. But it does seem, and what would happen, of course, with the Belmont Media Center is the Belmont Media Center receives fees through the annual contract or the how many years contracts that come due on Comcast and Verizon, and that what pays for, the great coverage that we get from the media center. I mean, as everybody said, over COVID, it was the Belmont Media Center that really proved its worth just by public meetings and just getting people to know what's happening around town. So I think you're going to have. I think that what will happen is that they're gonna try to find some way, if we go forward with broadband, to maybe take the fees from broadband, or some, there's also some business opportunities, because broadband can send a lot of information over their fiber optics. And you can have companies who would love to have that ability. So, we'll see what happens. I don't think the town would abandon the media center simply just to have faster gaming speed, something like that.
Yeah, but the broadband could also bring some businesses here, so that's good news.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so great. And so next story is very different. It's about the Black Lives Matter sign that makes some controversy.
That's right. At the beginning of the farmers market, when the farmers market opened, the people who run it said that they wanted to show their support for Black Lives Matter, about diversity and racial justice, and also try to promote the farmers market to a more diverse community. So they said, we'll put up this sign. We'll make sure that people understand that we support it. And we're trying to get people in here. What happened is that a customer at the farmers market went to town officials and said, "Look, I think that the Black Lives Matter placard that they had, which was on a barrier, on a small barrier
at the beginning, at the entry of the market."
That's right. It was political speech. And they question whether that something on town land, because the farmers market is in the Claflin Street parking area, should that happen? And so the town requested. They said, "Would you please remove it? And then let's talk about having a policy." The farmers market said, "Okay, but we still want that. We want a sign that says, shows our support." When it came before the select board on Monday, it really became an issue of free speech, but also equal speech. You can't promote one ideology over another, because that's against the law, and it's been proven many times over. But you also don't want a situation, as George Hall said, who is the town council. You don't want this area to become a bulletin board, or where you have so much speech there that and competing speech, and you don't know, and you have no ability to say no to certain speech, like racist speech, or or speech that is outside the realm of outside of what most people hear on a daily basis. So what the town did is they had a compromise. The farmers market said, "Well, we'll take that sign that was on the barrier down, and what we'll do is we'll put it at the manager's tent, which is where people come to ask questions, and vendors can also ask questions at this area, and we'll put it there. And so you will know that it's the farmers market that is promoting it. It's not because somebody else put it there, or a vendor put it there. This is our statement." And the board said, that would be a good compromise. But within the next month or so, maybe 2 months, they're going to have a sign policy, just to make sure that people understand what's acceptable on public land.
Yeah, I was about to ask. Oh, the policy will apply for all public land, so included. So every event that is set on a public land.
Let's say we could take, let's say there's an event that's going to be happening at Payson Park, right in any of the parks. We have a movie event by the town. What if what will be the situation if somebody says, hey, I want to put Donald Trump won the election in 2020, I want to put that kind of sign there. Well, if you don't have a policy, do they have the right to do that? So what they're going to do is just figure out, as George Hall said, let's not make this a community bulletin board for competing speech, and that's not what you want.
Yeah. So next story is about the Financial Task Force, and they issued recommendations.
That's right. The Financial Task Force was developed about a year and a half ago, right now, and what it was basically to make sure that was to take a deeper dive into the finances of the town, and it really was a situation where you have a group of people who sat down and said, okay, what are some things that we really need in town to make it much so we have a better hold on what the finance is and how we're moving forward with finance in a town that has a structural deficit. And that's basically where the Finance Task Force is looking at. So they came out with their recommendations. One was the hiring of a financial director. Now that would make this person would be right now we have basically a town administrator working with the treasurer, working with the accountants, and moving forward with a budget. This would give you would have one person who would be looking at finance in town, and they would also not just look at finance, but how to restructure finance or make finance better. So we would have a new position in town. We've already heard some people talk about how why do we need to spend another X amount of money for somebody like that? Well, towns that do have financial directors seem to have a better hold on where their finances are and can move quickly. It's not something that you have to discuss with 3 or 4 people. This person would be in charge. So that's one thing. Another big thing is a 5-year modeling. Right now, we don't have that. Well, we do have we do have the warrant committee that does look forward a few years, but this would really be much more oriented towards knowing what our finances are in 5 years and all the subsequent years before that, and make really cogent and smart decisions on how to finance. Let's say we'll go to the schools and the Chenery roof, which is going to cost $5-6 million. If we would have known that 5 years ago, we could have just started thinking about how we can start paying for it over the long term. So,
and it was one of the asks of Anne-Marie Mahoney, who is the chair of the Capital Committee, and Jenny Fallon, who is the chair of the Long-Term Capital Committee.
That's right.
So it's the same movement that all the town officials looks like they are agreeing on. We need to plan for longer.
That's right. We need that long-term plan, because how do you really, when you know that a school, is about after 25 years, a school starts to, need a new roof, need new windows, everything on that end. We can do the same thing with any department. The police department. When do we need vehicles for the police fire department, fire apparatus, when do we need that? So let's start structuring. So if we know 5 years from now we'll need a new fire engine, we can start planning for that, saving for it, financing in a different way. So it's just a way of just being much more in tune with the finances in town. There are some other things like long-term planning, capital planning, using different software. But I think the other one that really caught everybody's eyes with 2 things. One is really look at healthcare costs, because they are budget busters, and that would really look at trying to, I think what they really are trying to do is take a wider look at it and say, okay, can we ask a bigger ask of union employees to finance more of their health care? Is that something that we can do as a town? And that's another thing that the town has said is it would like to see contracts done on a town-wide basis rather than just the schools and the city and the town. I mean, so that's something that they feel that would be a much better approach, a much easier way of trying to control healthcare costs. And I think the other big thing that they came up with, and I think it's interesting also, is that they want to see a real effort to say we're going to have periodic overrides, meaning on a base, almost a schedule. We'll have overrides over 2, 3, 4 years. I don't know, that would have to be decided, but it's something that people can be prepared for. It will show exactly what the costs are, why we're doing it, but it's also a way for the town to say, okay, we're not going to, wish and hope about a big override. These periodic overrides would be small and very targeted. So I think that would be also more acceptable to people rather than having a big override that failed last year or this year.
And does the task force ended his work, or they are here to stay?
It should have ended its work, but I think they've done such a very good job at understanding what was needed that they're going to stick around. Maybe not, doing it every 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It'll be more on a on-need basis. Whether they're going to be coming back when there's, if all the roofs go bad, they could come back and decide, what is the strategy for the town to look at things. It's a group that's already there. They know what the subject is, and you're not starting from square one. You've got somebody already with some knowledge about that.
Okay. And last but not least, next week and next Monday in particular is a very busy day and busy week.
Yeah, it's one of those nightmare days for anybody who follows town, because there's so many interesting things to do. Yeah. One of the first things is that the Board of Health will be discussing whether younger students under the age of 12 will have to be masked. Coming in September. That's becoming a real issue. You see that on national news, and this is where Belmont is part of that national conversation. So it's going to be a very interesting meeting on the Board of Health at 4:30. Then we have a Recreation Commission meeting that is. Of course, it's on Monday, and it's going to be a special events request for an international Asian music concert at Payson Park. Sponsored by the Belmont Chinese American Association. That this is showing this is where the Chinese American Association they usually do the Chinese New Year. Yeah, very big in Chinese New Year. Now they're expanding to a bigger festival. And so we'll see what this festival is and where it's going and things like that. And then we'll also have on Monday the Zoning Board of Appeals will be having a public meeting in which they are going to be just basically anybody who wants to talk about 91 Beaches Circle, which is of course the 40B development in a residential neighborhood over on Belmont Hill. It's going to be if you got something to say about it, there you go.
So the all meeting is just for the single topic?
Just that's the only thing on the meeting agenda. So it's if you want to go out and have your say about it, go right ahead.
Thank you very much, Franklin. You will be there to report on all the story, I'm sure.
I hope so.
Thank you for watching. It was News Now. I'm Frederic Rigolo. See you next time.